All right. Good morning and welcome to another episode of PharSide Pholios. We are excited about this 2021 season as we are finding joy in the genre in the month of July. So this month we've done a little bit of inspirational, and this last end of the month we've entered into sci-fi. So if you are a big sci-fi fan, if you are new to the world of sci-fi, just hold on to your hats, hang on, enjoy the ride because we've had some great guests, and we've got a wonderful guest joining us today is amazing author Jason DeGray, who's bringing us into the realm of possibility. He's a writing wizard of sci-fi with a magical way of words. He really has a gift for the artistry in the realm of sci-fi, and just enters the world of sci-fi. You're going from world to world. He's a veteran of the field, and he's opening these doorways and with vivid images and pictures, and he has so much to offer, and we're so glad to have him with us on the Far Side. Welcome to the Far Side, Jason DeGray.
Thank you, Monica, and thanks for that wonderful intro. That was, wow, man. Thank you for that.
Well, you're welcome. We do our best. So you've got this, I'm telling you, the cover, I looked at the cover of this book and I was like, at first I was like, okay, we got the eyes, the green eyes. And I'm like, okay, these look like binary numbers, like you see on the opening of the old computers, like when you first logged up and all you saw were like the 00015 all across the screen. I'm like, okay, this title is okay, so it's back with 3. There's a V and E. No, that's not 3VE. It's like Eve. It's got to be Eve, And so it's like making my mind flip and think, okay, let me backtrack through my computer science, like beginning computer science and that daggone Radio Shack 180 from ancient times. From ancient times that we had. You open up that first chapter with the following: I have been many shapes before I gained a congenial form. And it's like, what about that? What about those words set the stage for your for the story you're trying to pull us into?
Well, it works on a couple of different levels. On the surface, this is the opening line from the Battle of the Trees, and this is an old Druid epic, and that talks about the trees coming alive and helping the Druids fight off these invaders. And so, there is a connection there. That's a little bit of foreshadowing as far as that goes. But deeper than that is that this is a story about these characters that are trying to find themselves and recreate themselves at the same time, right? And so they are trying on many different shapes that they're taking before they settle on that final form, that final congenial form, that final version of themselves that they present to the world. And so that's what I was trying to get across, like I said, on a couple of different levels there with those opening lines.
Yeah, it definitely this whole concept of kind of shaping, and almost like kind of this process of becoming, as well as you're navigating space and time and what you want to see yourself as, or others' perceptions, of you. Um, that sort of kind of see at the beginning was like the like that father son relationship at the beginning, like thinking of how you perceive yourself and maybe how a parent perceives you. So you've got a lot of um, different pieces in there that kind of make you think about um, that whole concept of changing form. So from the beginning, you bring the realities of the setting between what once was, like what was Denver before, and then its current state of being. Is this something that you carry throughout your works? Like you had, like the Dark Goddess, you got Blaze Against the Machine, or Twisted Yarns that you've done.
Yeah, I think that this is actually something that I explore quite often because I'm such a huge fan of cycles and patterns, and I think that the world is run by cycles. Everything is a cycle, everything is a pattern, and we are caught up in that. Even what we think of as as human history and stuff like that is subject to these same cycles and these same patterns. And so we have that old adage of learn from history or you're doomed to repeat it. I would revise that and say we're just doomed to repeat it because we've had what 6,000 years of some odd of human history this time around, and it's the same cycles and the same patterns and the same things being replayed over and over. People are still the same. We're still saying the same things, thinking the same thoughts, telling the same jokes in a lot of ways. I mean, the only thing that's changed in 6,000 years is really fashion and technology, but people have not. And so that's really what I was wanting to explore this. And so what happens when we get to the very end of this cycle, and where is humanity going to be at this time, and what consequences and what actions and what things did they do, ignoring everything from the past, ignoring patterns and cycles and things like that, and just going forward with their selfish desires, what we wanted to do. And I think, like I said, that's where that's where people, that's where we live, is in this world of ever repeating cycles and patterns and stuff like that. Like I said, only the outside changes, only the dressing changes, right? But the inside, the core of this is the same thing that keeps going over and over and over. And it has to end at some point. The cycle has to break, the pattern has to fall apart. And so that's what I was really trying to explore with Eve, was what happens whenever you get to the end of one of those cycles. What happens when the pattern starts falling apart? What are people going to do then? Because there's nothing for them to hold on to and be like, oh well, it's just all going to blow over. It'll be okay. Give it another 5 years. We'll see. That's not the case here. They're facing something new. They're facing something that's beginning, a new cycle and the death of an old one. And so it's really a new epoch of human history that they are moving into. And so that's really what I wanted to explore. And I do explore throughout all of my work to some extent, because one of the things, like I said, is what got us here and what gets people to where they are. It's their decisions, it's their actions, it's their choices that they make in the past, and all of the stuff that the choices and things like that people make have an impact on where they go in the future. And so I think that's a very important concept to explore and try to understand, and a hard lesson to learn.
Well, you had the Ruined Man series, and that kind of centers around the paranormal. And then you have, of course, several other titles. So, would you say Eve is different from or stands out from the others that you've written, other titles that you've written?
Well, as far as compared to the Ruined Man, I mean,
Mhm.
it's a different genre, so
Mhm.
it stands out in in that regard. But I think that the Ruined Man series was more about being swallowed by the darkness, being consumed by darkness, and having to live in that.
Mhm.
Whereas Eve is actually a tale of overcoming that darkness. It's
Okay.
actually going through the darkness and coming out on the other side. Somebody new, somebody better, somebody stronger. For all the experience and for all the darkness that you've lived through, it's not, and so I think that overall, Eve is a tale of hope and of renewal and things like that. Whereas some of the other stuff that I had written in the past was, like I said, focused much more on being stuck in
Mhm.
this place of darkness and basically wallowing in it, and fighting the darkness, um, without ever trying to escape from it. You're just constantly in it, fighting it. And Eve breaks out of that. Eve breaks that cycle.
Okay. So now with Eve, you're introducing readers to characters like we got Jimmy Lee, who's the heir to this corporate entity. We've got this child genius, Nate, and then you got Riley, a tech consultant, in the beginning chapters. How would you describe how these characters, their stories are developed without giving the whole story away?
Right. Um, well, Jimmy Lee is your typical spoiled rich kid who doesn't appreciate what he has, and is really trying to thumb his nose at the system that he's going to inherit, right? And he's really trying to distance himself from that, but it doesn't work. And he gets pulled back into it and gets wrapped up in it in a way that he doesn't see coming. Because again, he feels that he's invulnerable. He feels that even though he doesn't want anything to do with the system, he still feels, and he still takes confidence from his position in it. And this idea that nothing can touch him because of who he is, and so everything that he does, all the selfish things that um, he does from this place. Again, further on in the story, something unexpected happens to him that really forces him to change his perspective, I'll say. But that's who he is on the outset. Nate is just he's just a kid, and even though he is a genius, I guess a savant, he doesn't realize that. Okay, he is just focused on being a kid. He wants to live his life. He wants to be, part of everything, and so that's where his focus is, and he doesn't realize that he is special. He doesn't realize that he is uh, different from the other kids, and and then from the other people, really. And so this is where his idea of discovery is coming, is where is this learning who he really is, and learning his past. He's also, I think, a very tender child and innocent, uh, given his environment and circumstances, right? And he maintains that, again, which is something that's special about him. Jacob Riley is somebody that's stuck in the past. He cannot get over the death of his son and the dissolution of his relationship and things like this. And he is somebody that is living in that. speaking of wallowing in darkness, I mean, that's what he is doing. And he's just, trying to get through life, plodding through life, just doing the grind. And, he has these weird, um, things, this weird code that he lives by, these morals that he holds to, that really only mean anything to him. And he's but he holds on to these things, and uses them as kind of an armor against the world. And he's really shut himself off to everybody and everything. And this is, his self discovery, I guess, is trying to open up and trying to uh, you know live in the moment instead of living in the past.
So we are looking forward definitely for our audience, our viewing audience, and those who will watch us again by replay. Just a reminder that you are going to want to pick up Eve. All right. So this is a great, beautiful story from the beginning. You're drawn in by the characters, you're drawn in by the dialogue from the beginning. Jason just has a great way with words. So, you want to hit him up on his website, jasondegray.com, as well as to go to Amazon, where you can definitely find it, read a sample, and believe me, you'll be pulled into the story, and you'll want to finish and pick up any of the other titles that he has, because he's just a great writer. What are some of the big themes or concepts that you've been able to get into with this book that maybe you haven't been able, that were different from the other titles?
Well, really, technology outdistancing our psychology, and what's going to be the end result of that. That's something that I really wanted to explore in Eve, as far as a big theme goes. Is what's the end result of merging with this technology, and is it really going to is the outcome really going to be positive and utopic, like we're being bombarded with constantly, or is it going to put us in a different place? And so this is something that I have been fascinated with for the past few years, and something that I really wanted to explore with Eve, and also the idea of technology versus nature, and the idea that as humanity progressed technologically, and moved further away from nature, uh, you know they we tend to live away from it. We tend to live outside of it, and that really doesn't work, right? That really doesn't gel with the way the cycles and the patterns of the planet itself, because we live on this planet, so we need to live as part of it. And what would happen then if that were the case? If that we had completely retreated from nature, and had just walled ourselves into these little cities, that and we're just trying to staunchly, no, we're doing it this way, type of thing. And we know better, that type of thing, as far as living in the planet and not just on it. And so those are really, and then, like I said, discovery and change, and the idea that what is a person other than a collection of memories. And this is it's something else that the characters are exploring, in the midst of all of these other ideas and themes. This is something that they are going through. And who are they if they're not them, if they're not their memories? Who are they if they're not themselves? And so and is it possible to create new selves, new memories, and new identities? And and so these, I would think, were the three major themes that I was trying to develop here.
And I think you really did a good job of tackling that, especially, considering, the times in which we are, living in. And as an educator myself and having to, doing instruction virtually, um, students spending more time, plugged in and then being quarantined and plugged in versus even having the break in the day where you actually went outside and you were able to play with friends and that kind of thing. So that whole concept of being able to, connecting with nature versus, being so plugged in. So I, definitely connect with what you, pulled out with the technology piece and nature thing. Um, Now, if you were, I mean, you're in this sci-fi world, um, you're an expert veteran of the genre. Is there another literary genre that would consider, um, writing in, and if it like, would you do a mystery? Would you do YA? You know, um, would you do a memoir?
I write a bunch of different genres
Hmm.
already. I mean, I wrote a fantasy adventure.
Okay.
I've done paranormal detective stuff. I've done sci-fi. I guess if I'm going outside my wheelhouse as far as genres are concerned, I would like to try some contemporary fiction or literary fiction, something like that, to see what that's like. And because that would definitely be something I would consider out of my wheelhouse as far as writing goes. Because I do, that's one of the things I have a hard time with, is when people say, well, what type of writer are you, or what genre do you
Hmm.
write in?
Hmm.
Well, I pick one. Give me one, and that's I've probably written a story in it somewhere. And so but it does all tend to be within that speculative fiction
Okay.
realm. So yeah, I mean, moving outside of that, I would have to say I would like to try like contemporary or literary fiction for something new, for something challenging as far as genres go.
Okay. So, given all of the different, genres that you've written in, and your, years of, writing, what is something that you would like to happen, um, for your stories? What is something like, what would you like to see? Would you like to see, like, uh animated series? Would you like to see, would you consider like a Netflix movie, or hitting the, a major Hollywood big screen, or a comic book series, or what is something you'd like to see happen, for your stories?
Well, what writer wouldn't want any of that? I mean, honestly, I have thought about The Ruined Man as a movie, and I do have some scripts and things like that that I would love to turn into graphic novels or a comic series. Um, but yeah, who wouldn't? Who wouldn't want that? I mean, my biggest hang up would be I wouldn't want them to go in and take too much license with
Mhm.
with what I had done as far as like the characters and the character development and things like that. I would be hesitant to turn it over, for that, because I wouldn't want my main characters to take this wildly different direction than what I had done for them, just because Netflix decided it would sell more, or something like that. I mean, so that would make me hesitant. But yeah, I mean, any of that would be great, and I do spend some time visualizing that every day to see what comes of it. Movies, yeah, yeah. Not so much an animated series. I don't think much of my work would translate. Maybe Eve, but yeah, yeah. Movies or comics slash graphic novels, definitely.
So, so what about, your fan base, your audience? How have you been able to stay connected to your readers and maintain those connections, especially during this kind of um, quarantine, COVID, post COVID, whatever we're calling this time that we're in right now.
Well, I do. I had my Facebook page up for a while, and that's where I would connect with people a lot as far as like posting and and things of this nature. Or an old blog that I had. I used that, talking through the comment sections and things like that, and just email, um, and chat to some degree. But I just recently I've launched a reader group on Facebook called Weird Worlds that I'm excited about, and I really want to move this, uh, you know, interaction with the readers and things like that. I'd love to move it over to something like that. To there's more freedom, there's more options doing that, and with a group as opposed to like a page or something like that, because people get the option to interact, right? They can post things, and this nature. I mean, so that's what I would like to, and that's what I'm working on moving towards at this time, and really what I would like to turn that platform into.
All right. Some cool ways to stay connected and to stay visible. So um, definitely um, Weird Worlds on Facebook. And of course, connect through his website and find out about his Jason's blog. Are ways to be connected. So, what are some things that from Eve that you want readers to kind of take away or think about? Maybe one or two things.
Well, their place in the world for sure. Um, like we talked about, and with technology versus nature, because I do think that is a danger that we're facing. Is we're becoming so plugged in that's becoming our world, and that's not the real world. And while we're plugged in here, the real world out here is suffering. And so that's something that I would like people to take away. And I guess the other thing is, find out who you are. I mean, go on that journey, and come out the other side, and and be who you are. Um, that is huge for me, and one of the greatest lessons that I've learned in life is that, yeah, don't stay in the darkness. Keep going until you come out the other side, and be genuine. And that's where the happiness is.
All right. There's some good words of wisdom. I mean, just some and food for thought. As we're coming out of, this pandemic, things are opening up, to really think about, your place in the world and connection to it, you know, taking the time to really unplug and plug into something else other than a socket, whether it's plugging into family time and relationships, plugging into getting outside and taking a run, walk, drinking some water, or whatever your thing is, finding that, ways of connection and, thinking of the world beyond just what's the screen in front of you. So thanks for those insights. Um, so what is something, there are we get a lot of people who watch us who are aspiring writers and are currently in the throes or process of writing, and you've been around the block for a minute with this writing thing. So what are some words of wisdom that you would give, to those aspiring writers, who are in that process or beginning the process of writing? What are some tips of the trade or tools of the trade, or um, a couple of recommendations you would give?
A couple of my favorite pieces of advice. One came from a college professor. Whenever I told them, no, I'm going to be a writer, and he kind of laughed and said, "Well, then you better get used to writing for the trash can." And at the time, I was like, "Oh, no, Dr. Cook, you don't know." And everything I write is gold, and that obviously wasn't the case. So that was a hard lesson to come to. But in a way, it helped because there for years I was writing to prove him wrong. And so I just kept going and just kept going, and no, this is good, but this is better. And so that helped me to get better. But in the process, I really wrote a lot for the trash can. I mean, there's so much stuff that's never coming out that that is awful. No, that's the early work, and you'll never see that. And one of my other favorite pieces of advice is something that I'd come up with after being on social media and around some of the writing groups and communities, and you would see these people on Facebook groups talking about, they're stuck. They have writer's block because they can't decide which color shirt their main character should be wearing, or I can't think of a name for this one, or but this I have to map out the complete geopolitical history of this minor country in my fantasy novel, and it's taking. I've been working on it for so long, and I can't get. I've gotten away from the story. I mean, it's nuts. I mean, stick to the story. Stick to the story. That's what you're sitting down to write, and whatever comes into the story, whether it be setting, whether it be character description or development, whether it be places and things like that, it all has to drive the story. That's what everything is there for. That's what all the setting, that's what all the little details are there for. They're there to drive the story. So how do these details that you're stressing over drive the story? And that should be the first question that you're asking. Is it that important? How is it driving the story? And oh yeah, if it comes down to I have to know the shirt, the color of my main character's shirt. Well, then why? Why is it important? And then go there, and then and then just keep asking why, and that's going to get you through these blocks, and that's going to open it up and help you refocus on what's important again, which is the story, which is moving the reader from point A to point B, and that's the goal. That's what you're doing. Everything else in between should serve that goal, and everything outside of that is extra.
All right. Those are some great words of advice. All right. So if you didn't catch it the first time around, watch the replay so that you don't miss the nuggets of what Jason was saying when it comes to, writing. Okay. So is there anything, Eve is your latest project, right? So is there something that you have, that you're working on now, or are you taking a breather?
Oh no, I have The Ruined Man is actually going to be that series is going to be re-released
Wow.
uh, with a new publisher. Um, and so that's coming up soon this year. The Ruined Man and the Dark Goddess will probably be out later this year, and then I'll be about to start working on the third book in the Ruined Man series, and so that's on deck as well. And I'm in the editing phase right now of a book for the first book in a sci-fi series that I'm going to be working and writing on as well. And so, like I said, I'm in the editing phase with this part. So yeah, I've got a lot. I've got a lot coming up. So keep checking back.
All right. So for those who are watching live and those who will catch the replay, you're going to go to jasondegray.com to keep up to date on what he's doing. You're going to check out his blog. You're going to go to his Facebook group to find out what other things he has coming up and going on. So you definitely want to stay connected, so you can be abreast of new projects, and especially like the re-release of the Ruined Man series. So I'm definitely looking forward to seeing what the third book in the series. And it's interesting to be able to meet the author of someone that you've read. Who knew? Who knew? So so that's awesome. I'm like making the connection. I'm like, oh yeah, it was like a light bulb moment. Um, so thank you for sharing those upcoming projects with us, and definitely will be on the lookout for those. And so we definitely would love to have you back to when you get ready to launch, to talk about the new projects or anything like that. So thank you so much for just sharing that with our audience. So how can our viewers purchase the book and connect with you on social media?
Okay, well, I'm on my website is jasondegray.com. I've been posting the interview and things like that. That if you want to check some of that out, that's going to be up there. And upcoming things are on the website, and I'm on Facebook at Jason DeGray Author, and then of course my reader group is Weird Worlds, also on Facebook. And so I would love to chat and start some conversations. So that's those are the best ways to do it.
Awesome. So you heard it here as to ways to connect. Jason DeGray, author on Facebook.com, on Facebook. And then he's got Weird Worlds, the Facebook group, and jasondegray.com as ways to connect and see what he's up to and what's coming down the pike. So we are thanking our guests. I'd like to thank my guest, Jason DeGray, for spending this morning time with us. And we definitely wish you success, continued success with Eve and all of the wonderful projects that are in the works now, and those that are coming soon. So definitely keep us abreast of what you're doing, and we're glad and excited about being able to have another author that we'll be following, and that we've been able to introduce our audience to. So for those who are watching live and those who are watching by replay, we want you to make sure you're staying connected, staying tuned to the PharSide Co-Ed Book Club Facebook page for more author interviews and posts as we celebrate finding joy in the genre in July. So until next time, many roots, many voices are part of the infinite story. So plant your seed and have a great day until next time. Bye-bye.